Humans on the cardboard. Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today, another profile for you. I didn't really do any profiles post ban list because I didn't think any of the stuff that came off like particularly helped any strategies. But I do think SALAMANGREAT was the one strategy that I looked at and I was like, you know what? I haven't updated the deck since Circle even left 1. Now it's at 3. Huge consistency boost there. Desires has gone from 3 to 1 and now back to 2. So now the deck can take advantage of Desires again. There's just some cool things the deck can do. I do think it's in a pretty good spot. I think it's a solid rogue deck. Definitely not tier 1 though. It definitely gets outclassed in terms of overall power. But I do think consistency and grindability are definitely this deck's strong suit. So if you can slow games down, simplify board states, this deck can definitely run away with advantage. And yeah, so I'll show you my current build today, what we got going on, and yeah, let's just jump into this thing. So starting off with our main deck here, very simple for the SALAMANGREAT lineup. 1 Gazelle, it's only at 1, it's the only card, other than I guess Mirage Stallion, but Stallion could go to 3. Wait, is Stallion still on the ban list? I don't even remember, whatever. You only play 1 even if it's whatever it's at, so it's almost like even if it is, it's not. If it's at 1, but Gazelle's really the only SALAMANGREAT card still on the ban list. I think it could go to 3. And I don't think it'd change much. Again, this card isn't like, this card is nice. It'd be a nice card to have because obviously if you don't get to this, you know, your deck is much worse, but still. Double Foxy, we only play 3 copies of an actual normal summon, so Foxy being like a pseudo normal summon is pretty good. The monster count's pretty low for him to resolve, but now that we have 3 circle, you can just hit a circle and just circle for whatever monster, so you kind of make up for it with that. Triple copies of Spinny, I do think you need to be turboing into Mirage Stallion. Card's so strong. It summons from deck, and it's awesome removal as well. I love that card. Double Jack, I think Double Jack is necessary. 1 Jack feels just way too fragile with stuff like, you know, DD Crow and Called by the Grave, just really popular right now. And most of the time, and then 1 Falco. Just a great grind card, being able to re-establish like spells and traps back to your hand and just reload them to fire off again and again. But very simple lineup, very standard, very, you know, kind of just small, but I like it compact like that. All right, moving to the actual normal summon, Triple Flame Buffalo. I don't want to play Lady Debug. It just kind of loses to certain hand traps. I know Ogre's not super popular, but like depending on your hand, Ash on her is just like scoop or pass, I should say. Really cringe that I only have 2 supers and a common, but what are you gonna do? Really like this card though. Really, really good. Just letting you draw. You have a lot of just awesome cards to draw in your deck. And we'll talk about at the end some other cards I'd consider because I have a lot of like decent cards in the deck. Power-wise, but they're consistent, right? They're good going second, that kind of thing. But I do think the deck could also benefit from potentially playing some maybe Floodgates, maybe some other higher impact cards that you could want to draw Flame Buffalo. But for now, we're chilling. And the only other Cybers card we play in the main is Parallel Exceed. Like I said, this deck does struggle with being a little bit weaker. Like as far as going first, like you want to go first obviously, but your end boards are just not quite strong enough a lot of the time. You have a lot of follow-up but not as much interruption, so Parallel Exceed being able to add to your boards is really, really powerful. In fact, I almost considered just playing like cutting Flame Buffalo for 4-Mud Skipper because it gets you into Banlinks, which is good, gets you into SALAMANGREATs, which can obviously then search through the field spell and do the co-link anyway, or the extra link, but you'd be able to like search this off of 4-Mud and then still get to Parallel Exceed, which is really good. But literally it's a 1 card, you know, field spell, Banlinks plus Baguska, which is fine, but you need another extender to actually like establish like a Sunlight Wolf and actually have you know, your resource loop going on. So it's fine, but it just wasn't enough overall. Yeah. I'd love SALAMANGREAT to get like an awesome main deck boss monster. That would be so sick. Like actually. And then for the hand traps, Triple Ash, Double Veiler, Double Crow. We also play Imperm, but we'll get to that with the traps. Just standard, you have to play 3 Ash. I think you have to play 3 Ash in the format anyway. It's just so good versus everything. It's great. It's not ending turns, but a lot of time it's going to like make a board mediocre instead of bonkers. So you need it. And then Veiler and Crow, just good simple hand traps right now in the format. Crow, good against Despia, being able to hit certain stuff. Decent versus Sword Soul, being able to hit stuff like Tenyi cards in Grave and certain other cards in like Taya situations. as well. That can be really nice. As well as like good against Therians, right? Stuff like that. If they ever discard Enchantress to be like cheeky and greedy, you can banish the Enchantress before they get a chance to fire it, and then they may not even be able to get to the engine. And then, you know, Veiler's just one of the good hand traps right now. You could also look at playing like Nib for a more high impact hand trap, but I like Veiler here. I think it's just solid. It's good in the format right now. Feel good about it. Obviously, it's hand traps, though, so you can always swap those out. Then we move to consistency cards. All right, triple, circle, triple, mining. I don't care. I want to max out on these. The reason our lineup, our Salamangreat lineup is so small is so, like, compact. We could have even dropped Foxy to 1 if we wanted to. I think the rest I would keep. I've heard people talk about dropping Falco completely, though. I still like it for the grind, but I get it. So yeah, like just super, super searchable, pretty much everything, except for Parallel Exceed. I wish he was still searchable off of one of these, but it is what it is. We play 3 of them for a reason. But yeah, just insanely strong. Circle being so good, and the fact that Sunlight Wolf can get this back, like even if you didn't get to your traps, a lot of times you're Sunlight Wolfing back a circle to just guarantee even more follow-up. So really, really good. I like those a lot. For the rest of the Salamangreat cards, 1 copy of Will, at least spell-wise, and then 1 Sanctuary. Will is, you know, you have to play at least 1 because you can get access to it via your Gazelle. But I'd consider playing 2. Definitely a card I could look at and be like, yeah, 2's definitely doable. I'm not there yet. I don't think I'd play 3 right now. I just don't think Nib is super popular. If Nib's popular in a format, you have to like max this out because the deck like really struggles against Nib. It doesn't have any like great inherent ways to like, you know, hold Nib at bay. And then obviously the Sanctuary is the only real brick in the deck, but you got to play it because otherwise your deck doesn't really do what it does. But yeah, just the 1 Will. I'd consider playing 2. Double Potted Desires. Another really cool addition to the deck. Went to 1 on the last ban list, and then now with the most recent one, or I guess 2 ban lists ago, went to 1. Now it's at 2. Konami already realizing like, oh, none of the decks that are good actually play this card, so it didn't really do anything to put it to 1. If anything, like Prosperity to 1, I could believe, but I don't want it to happen. But yeah, this card being at 2 means it's like probably worth playing, and because we have triple circle and triple mining, finding Gazelle is so easy, and like Gazelle's the single most important card you need to make sure you keep in rotation. So I think this card's worth it overall. The +1 is definitely really nice, but I'm holding it until I get Gazelle. Unless I have to fire it, then it is what it is. You got to do what you got to do. Utility, quick play spells, double Cosmic Cyclone, 1 Called by the Grave. Cosmic is pretty nice, I think, right now. I mean, the fact that Despia likes to set Branded in red, so being able to snipe that before you have to commit to the field is really nice. Versus Sword Soul, you can snipe Blackouts. Versus the Brave Engine, even going first, setting it, and as they try to play into you, hitting the Fateful Adventure to negate and destroy it is really good. Or negate and banish it. But yeah, it just feels like it has like a solid application in every matchup. And on top of that, in the most recent YCS, we saw a new development being that a lot of decks are just playing like Mystic Mine right now. In the main, even if it's 1 or 2 copies, maybe it's 1 copy and they just already play Terraforming, so technically 2 if they need it. Just having these in the main means we don't just auto lose. I mean, technically we already have an out with Rage, or like a Roar that's still like able to negate, but still I don't want to have to rely on having that, whereas this just kind of bumps it up a little bit, and these are like utility anyway. They can hit other stuff regardless anyway, so I still like that. This card is just solid through and through. It does something in every matchup, so I like it. And then Called, just it's Called, you know. It's good. I don't really need to explain this. And then to the traps, 1 Roar, 1 Rage. I think 1 and 1 is fine with the immense access to Gazelle now. We don't need to worry about hard drawing these, so I know in the past I've looked at like 2 and 2 ratios. I think 1 and 1 is perfectly fine. I know some people have also talked about dropping Rage. I would never. I love this card. I feel like for me personally, I most of the time like this card more than this card. I think it's more powerful, but this one's safer. So like I like playing both. I'm going to play both. They're awesome. They're great. And then lastly, just triple in perm. Nothing crazy. I already showed you 7 hand traps, so this would bring us up to 10. So 10 hand traps in the main. Obviously, if you want, you can wiggle around like the Cosmics and maybe the Called by if you want to fit more hand traps into the main. That is up to you. But as for me, I feel like 10 feels decent right now. I don't think it doesn't feel like you need to see 2 hand traps like last format to like do anything. I think that, you know, 10 feels like a pretty solid number. Into the extra deck here with the Salamangreat stuff, triple Balinks, triple Sunlight Wolf, and 2 Heat Leo. These stay, I think, no matter what. I don't think anybody's going to argue that 3 and 3 is good there. I do think there's an argument to only play 1 Heat Leo. You definitely need to play 1 just to have an option to hit back row. But I kind of like 2 because it just feels really broken into like a multiple back row to go like effect of 1, get impermed, and then be able to just like, boom, reincarnation link for another one, hit another one. Just the fact that it's not once per turn, you can just do it twice in the same turn, just feels so broken. That I personally like playing the 2 because it can just be like a blowout versus back row matchup. Stuff like Eldritch, if they're not ready, just being able to force everything out immediately feels really good. So yeah, it's a good card. But if you wanted that extra space, if there's one card you're really trying to fit and you play everything else I do here, then like that'd be the first card I'd cut. All right, for some just generic link stuff, 1 update jammer for the OTKs with access code or even just transcode. 1 Splash Mage, helping you link climb immediately. Transcode, same thing. 1 Heat Soul. This is a new addition here. This is another reason why, you know, I look at this and I'm like, huh, maybe this deck is different enough now to actually redo the deck profile. Heat Soul is awesome. When you have too many extenders, it felt like before you didn't really know where to go with them. But now if you just put 1 more body on the field, you could potentially just make like Heat Soul plus Sunlight Wolf. So like you might have a trap with the Sunlight Wolf, and then Heat Leo's drawing you 2 cards at least, and that feels really good. It's really cool. I like the card a lot. And then obviously the access code, pretty basic, right? Just climb up into him, kill your opponent. And because of this card, I would actually advise siding stuff like well, so like you could play Droplet in the main if you want to cut like 3 of the hand traps or something. Easily play Droplet, but I would also probably play Dark Ruler in the side. I like the idea of those haymakers because if you just turn off a board, as long as they don't have like back row, most of the time you could just so easily, like 1 or 2 cards gets you into an access code line and you just straight up kill your opponent. You just fucking kill them. I mean, you bare minimum wipe their whole board and then you deal like some good damage depending on the extenders you had. But if you went through Update Jammer, like you just killed them. You just win the duel immediately. So I like it. There, and then for the Exceeds, 1 Mirage Stallion, 1 Baguska. Mirage Stallion comes up all the time. This card is awesome. You know, just being able to, 1, give you additional removal, which comes up all the time, as well as being able to like summon any of your Salamangreats straight out of the deck. So getting a Jack into rotation, getting another Spinny into rotation, whatever you want. You know, Gazelle, any of that. So good. This card is awesome. And then Baguska, this is the power the deck needed. And what I like is because of the generic options we have now for cyber stuff, even if you see Parallel Exceed and like you don't need Baguska or you're going second or whatever, it's mid game, you drew it later, you don't need to go into Baguska. It's your best option going first. It's really good in the format. But even if you don't need that, your Parallel Exceed just allows you to go Splash Mage, you know, Transcode, Heat. If you're going first still and you know Baguska's not good, just make a Heat Soul, draw some cards, you know, you'll draw some hand traps, maybe you'll draw another settable trap. Cosmic, Called by the Grave, you have a ton of good cards you can draw in the deck. Anyway, so that just feels so good. It feels nice to have like an option other than just exactly the 1 rank 4 that you want to make for Parallel Exceed, and I definitely appreciate that. But yeah, that's mostly it for the profile. The deck's in a pretty good spot. I mean, I think if you're looking for a super budget deck, right, other than like, I guess, access code and maybe Heat Soul's a couple bucks, like, deck is super budget, man. Looking through everything here, like, mining, I think is only a couple bucks now that with its reprints. Yeah, Imperm, because it was in the structure deck last year, should be fine. Like, literally, this deck should be super budget. Super easy to go ahead and pick up if you want something that can compete at the bare minimum on the rogue level in Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! So I gotta respect it. I like the deck now, now that it's not everywhere at locals like it was for that like 2-year span. You would expect to play like 2 of these every locals, but now that it's not, I appreciate the deck for what it is. I like the way it plays. It actually is my kind of style of a deck, just not aesthetically my style perfectly, but I like them. They're cool. But yeah, I'm out of here, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts on the build. What would you add? What would you take away? Let me know what you would consider running in the deck. I'm just one guy, and I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you have not yet and you want to see more profiles from me down the line. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.